Good morning, distinguished chairs. Today's debate motion is this House believe that global environmental food crisis did not happen because the lack of food security. We, from the government bench, were agreed to this motion. We are proposed that motion. First, we would like to address what is the global food crisis. What is the status quo right now, and why exactly the lack of food security were not the main reason why the global food crisis happened in the first place. First, global food crisis, or food crisis in itself. What is a food crisis? Food crisis occurs when the rates of hunger and malnutrition sharply rises at local, national, or in this case, global level. Second, food security. What is food security? Food security exists when all people at all time have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs. Simply put, food security is a state when all the people should be able to afford a good quality food that meets their dietary needs. Good nutrition food that meets the dietary need. That is food security. Now, I come up with these three main reasons that cause food crisis that have been happening in the world. Which first is the fallout of the pandemic. The second is geopolitical war that have been happened between Russia and Ukraine. And the third is the climate change that affect food safety. Now back to the first argument, fallout of the pandemic. In 2020, the COVID-19 struck the world by storms. Because of this pandemic, it's about the virus that can be transmitted throughout the air. And one of the ways to stopping it is to isolate ourselves, to minimize our activity outside home. This is changed how humans throughout the world interact. And how this can lead to food crisis? Well, a lot of people get greedy. Not only the people, but all of the nation get greedy too. When certain nations have a resource to afford food stocks in the world, all of these rich people, all of this rich nation afford all of the food stock that it can get. And when they get all the food stocks, what does this mean to a lot of other people? Well, this means that poor people and poor country were struggling to meet their food requirement, and that's translate to food crisis. Now that argument picture clearly shows how the status quo in the world right now. Second is geopolitical conflict such as war between Russia and Ukraine. Now it's bad enough that we have a fallout on the pandemic. Now we facing the war, the geopolitical conflict that had happened. Russia and Ukraine were two of the most influential countries in the world. Ukraine is the biggest exporter on wheat, and Russia is one of the big contributor in oil and gases in the world. Now, a lot of other countries in the world were not keen on the idea of these two countries going at war. So certain country in the world and certain organization in the world has made an agreement and decision that had made between certain countries and hopefully had an impact to stop these very war that have been happening right now. One of their decision is to boycott the oil and gas from their country, and that had an effect on gas prices, which is causing the economic shocks to the nation. When the gas prices is high, that's not the only thing that goes up. It had a domino effect. It also affect on food prices, because when the gas price is rises, the food crisis and on the food distribution itself, it's gonna be so hard because a lot of people will struggle to buy their gas. And that's why it could also lead to higher in food crisis. And all this problem also could lead to inflation that certainly worsen the state of food security throughout the world. Now to the third argument is climate change that affect food safety. Now, agriculture, fishery is highly dependent on the climate change. Changes in the frequency and severity, drought, floods could pose challenges for farmers and ranchers and threaten their food safety. Meanwhile, warmer water temperatures are likely to cause habitat ranges of many fish and starfish species to shift, which could disrupt ecosystem. Overall, climate change could make it more difficult to grow crops, raise animals. or catch fish, which are the main thing that people eat throughout the world, which are the big sector, the big thing that we eat in the world. If we not able to consume that, we have to find another resource, which is not easy. And that's why we should maintain this this very habitat, this very ecosystem that had already exists. So, and that's why this very factor that caused global food crisis if we let it so. Now, in conclusion, these three main reasons were why the global food crisis that led to the food insecurity happened in the first place. And that's why the government bans come up with this solution. The first, government should make a mandatory program that encourage people to make a conscious decision. Yes, conscious decision. Conscious decision is the solution. It's hard, but it's the root of all these problems. If people were put some thought into their decision, all of their decision, including when they're deciding what food to eat, what thing to buy, and as big as what nation should do, the decision that they make, it can not only benefit the now, but it should benefit the later. It should benefit the future generation and upcoming years, such as, you know, this food security that we've been talking about right now. The food security is the crucial to the existence of humankind throughout the world. So we're hoping by there's a conscious decision that encourage people to think and to what food to eat, what thing to buy, and what nation should do. We are hoping for a better world that we can live, so may the future children can exist and the now can survive. Thank you very much.